what to do after an accident. So again, you've got your materials, you trained your drivers on what to do. The main point that I want you to think about after an accident is freezing time. And what I mean by that is you only have one chance to really grab all of the post-accident information. Things start disappearing, memories fade, employees quit. There's a host of different things that can change after an accident occurs. So just remember, it's all about freezing time, capturing what happened on that day. So think about on the severity of the accident. If it's a small accident, you still need your vetter footage. If it is an accident that is at the rear of the vehicle and you go in, it's not going to be on the vetter footage. You better have vetter footage for the time that the accident occurred because you're going to be asked for that and it could affect your contract. So I throw that out there as a cautionary tale that you've got to have certain things in place. So let's go through some of those real quick. Think about your contract. So from Linehaul, they are stating that you must have a better camera. It's not covered up, it's working, it's recording, it's doing everything. You've got to have a FCAM, forward collision automated mitigation system. You've gotta have your drivers enrolled and have taken the approved training from one of the approved vendors that FedEx requires. So, I've had contractors come to me and they go, "I don't have an approved training program," and what happens is if you have an accident and you don't have certain things in place, then Linehaul has a mechanism, it's called an indemnity, but it's really more like a fine. And it's stating that you were supposed to have these things that were stated in the contract. You did not at the time of the accident, and therefore you're going to be penalized for that. And these penalties are huge. I've had some that are $75,000, and I've had some where they're just missing one of the things that I mentioned. They were missing the training. I've seen $35,000. I've seen $20,000. And think about that with your so this is all line haul specific is think about what is in your contract, what you're required to do, and make sure that like on the training is a big mistake that happens on the training is there is orientation training that's required. We get in such a hurry of putting a driver in a truck that we go, oh, we got 30 days to do the orientation training. Yes, but you really need to do the orientation training and your separate onboarding training as before any potential accident happens. So what I always recommend is once you get driver to road test and pass, is get them in your approved safety vendor and complete the 5 to 6 videos for orientation. Get it done. Do that before the first dispatch. You will never have a problem. The second thing is on the monthly training, set a training deadline for the 15th of the month. Do not wait until the last day of the month. If you're in a training thing that allows it to be finished at the 26th of the month, take that stress off of you. Get that training done by the 15th of the month. Encourage your drivers to complete it before then. And a lot of contractors tie that to a safety bonus. If you get it done by the 15th, you don't lose the safety bonus. You do it after the 15th, you're going to have a problem. So that is the line haul specific, other than you must wear a seatbelt, not have a cell phone in your hand, don't be speeding. And speaking of speeding, that does come up. I've had that situation happen on multiple occasions where the vetter footage shows the driver is going over contract speed. Contract speed is 65 miles an hour. And I had a situation where a driver rear-ended a snowplow in the middle of the day doing 71 miles an hour. The contractor had a big problem because legal came in and the truck was over contract speed. So we had to do a letter of assurance, then get into an OTC, opportunity to cure letter, all of that to make sure that the trucks are governed to contract speed. Some drivers know how to switch the governing trucks, or they have a buddy who's a mechanic to do that. So you need to have a process in place to make sure that you have a monitoring system in place that if someone is doing 70, 75, coming down a mountain, I've had some drivers that have gotten up to 80 miles an hour or plus coming down a mountain. Those are red flags that you need to deal with and take care of because it's going to come and bite you after an accident and it's going to be very costly and it can be something where your contract may be at stake for something like that. So keep all of that in mind on what may happen after an accident. All right, now let's think about we're going back to freezing time. We've got our vetter footage. The number one rule on the vetter footage is you got to get that footage ASAP, no later than 24 hours. What happens with some of the cameras that are used in our space is it doesn't have a whole lot of time. It could be like I know one camera system, they only have 40 hours. And if you have a set of teams running in a tractor and they have a minor accident and then they run for a couple of days around the clock, that footage is gone. And again, thinking about the small accident that you backed into a pole or something like that, making sure that you get the footage regardless if the camera shows anything. The requirement you have to provide better footage. Doesn't have to show anything, but if the accident happened on January 1st at noon, you better have better footage for January 1st at noon, regardless of what it shows. You have complied with the contract. Making sure that you have all that in place, making sure that you protect information. In the legal world, there's a thing called spoliation of evidence, meaning that, oh, we had a tire that blew out and caused us to hit another car when the tire blew out. If you throw the tire away that blew out, that could be spoliation of evidence. Oh, we had better footage, but we didn't get it, or the SD card didn't work, or the camera wasn't working, spoliation of evidence. Oh, we had this information, we had these pictures, we threw them away, spoliation of evidence. All of that can be used against you in litigation. And even though we have Linehaul that is covering us on some of that stuff, you could still be exposed yourself because you didn't do the right thing to aid in the investigation of that accident. So, understanding that speed, you're trying to make sure that you have everything in secure on that stuff. And then it's the basics. It's the accident happened on I-40 in Conway, Arkansas at 1:58 AM. Okay, that's the start. But you got to pull the latitude and the longitude. You got to get your Google Earth out and get a view of what the scene looked like. You've got to figure out what the speed is at the time. I always recommend when you are dealing with the camera to download the footage from the camera, but then there's also a dashboard in some of the camera systems that will show the route on a road. Do a screen video of that portion also because you're gathering more information on the speed and oh, they're going down Interstate 40 outside of Conway, Arkansas, and it gives you more information. Pull weather information, especially, and it may not be raining, but it could be 45-mile-an-hour winds. 45-mile-an-hour wind will turn a truck with two trailers over. If it's not loaded all the way and it's just two giant sails back there, you want that wind information. So you can get a wind app, you can go on the websites that have that information. But again, we're trying to freeze time. We're trying to collect that information for that day and make sure that you are getting everything. So there's no question of what's going on. Then thinking about on the roadside inspection. So what is missed a lot that I see is the Arkansas Highway Patrol, since I'm picking on Conway, Arkansas today. The Arkansas Highway Patrol, they do a roadside inspection, a DOT inspection of the condition of the truck as it is seen. So what I see a lot of times, especially in severe accidents, is the company FedEx gets violations for things that were caused by the accident. One I had last month is the tires blew out and the brakes had an issue. So we got 2 violations on that, but both of them were the cause from the accident. So Linehaul gets the roadside inspection. There's all the CSA points on there. It's got to be addressed. It's got to be looked at. You got to go, okay, this is the cause of the accident. The lucky thing that I had in that accident last month is I had a full PM done 4 days before the accident. So I had documentation that brakes were fine, tires were fine, and at least had some argument with that collecting all of that information. It's the same like a driver could get a ticket, a citation in addition to the roadside inspection, and you get the citation, but you don't get the roadside inspection. Just know if there is a DOT officer involved investigating an accident, that you make sure that you get those two pieces of paper, and they should be two, a roadside inspection and then the citation. Then the other interesting thing that happened, it was a bad accident last month, is drug and alcohol testing of your driver. We assume that if there's an accident, they will automatically drug test or alcohol test a driver after an accident, and that is not true. Generally, they will do it if there is some reason to think that they are going to bring charges against your driver. The driver seemed intoxicated or saying they needed to check something. So in the situation I had last month, we're in the middle of nowhere. It's 3 hours to the nearest clinic from where we're at. The investigation on the roadside accident was we were at 7 hours. So alcohol test has to be done within 8 hours post accident per the DOT. I had to talk to the officer on the phone and get them to administer an alcohol test through the breathalyzer on the side of the road because I couldn't, it's at hour 7, couldn't get to the hospital by then I had to get the driver released, which was like 3 hours later, get them to those 3 hours and get them to get a drug test at the hospital before the 36-hour requirement. You may not think about that stuff after an accident, but those are critical things because what'll happen in litigation is the regulation, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the regulation stated that they had to have an alcohol test within 8 hours. They didn't do that. Therefore, the driver must have been impaired at the time of the accident. That's what happens. So make sure that you understand what is required of you as a motor carrier, even though you're running under FedEx Corporation DOT number, you still have to understand what the requirements are on that. So let me just summarize real quick, just making sure your camera, I can't stress, get that footage quickly, as soon as possible, as soon as you hear about the accident, again, regardless of the severity of it, and then make sure that the weather, the latitude and longitude, make sure that you have all of your information collected. Have your driver write a statement out on what they said. Again, like my accident last month, the driver did a statement and then he left the company the next day. And what happens is you may not be able to get a hold of that driver again. So trying to get those statements, trying to figure out what the weather is, latitude and longitude, getting the roadside inspection, getting all that, it will really help to make sure that you have everything and that you will not have spoliation of evidence claims or problems with Linehaul. Thanks for listening.